My background today is Mayapur. So let me do a few clicks. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Today is a real beginning chapter. So let me give a little context first. But first, Om Gani Tansa Gyani Chakshurungitam Ye Tajmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So, for those of you who are decently dressed and you're able to stick on you can welcome to put on your cameras. Those of you who are indecent at the moment, I prefer to keep your camera off because we are a religious institution here and all of that. And those who can keep their camera on, I realize it's not always possible. And I see various friends of mine here, and Dana and Min and Henry and others. So welcome. Thank you for coming to class. And Adi is always there, the steadiest person I know. So appreciate all of you. This is the first volume that was produced after Prabhupada passed on. Prabhupada passed on in November 1977, and then the Bhagavatam wasn't complete. The devotees, team of devotees headed by Hridayananda Raj, decided to not begin with the 10th canto, even though Prabhupada had passed on while translating the 10th canto. But the 10th canto was already there in Krishna book. So they decided, and plus the 10th canto is so special that they decided to begin with the 11th canto and then the 12th. And the 12th canto is an unusual canto, and that's the only canto in the future tense. And the other cantos are in the past or present tense. So here we're in the 11th canto, so it's describing events that had happened. And but it's leading up to the 12th canto. One of the significance of the 12th canto is discuss what Kali Yuga will look like. And I ran the BBT division that produced part of the 11th and all of the 12th and cantos. And as the manuscripts were being translated and sent over to my BBT division, then we would typeset and edit and do the illustrations and all those things you do to get a completed volume out. I was reading the 12th canto, the manuscript, and I snickered. Now, why would I snicker when I'm reading the 12th canto? Because it described what Kali Yuga would look like, how the government would be run by robber barons and there'd be corruption everywhere. And basically, world would be in rough shape. And I was reading the 12th canto and I was like amazed. I said, I'll never see that in my lifetime. Even snickered a little. Boy, was I wrong. Because all you have to do is pick up a newspaper and you'll see, oh wait, people don't read newspapers anymore. All you have to do is pick up a podcast or wherever you get information from. You can see the world's a rough place. So many bad governments everywhere. Sometimes my work with the Bhaktivedanta Institute and my work with the ISKCON Resolve, I'm always speaking to people all around the world. And sometimes they say, what's going on in America? You've gotten weird. And then I ask them this question, well, what's going on in your country? It's all the same. It's Kali Yuga happening. and it is happening. So this particular chapter is kind of foretelling what's going to happen in the 12th canto. And we're beginning here with a curse upon the Yadu dynasty. And it's there is one, men are generally not very good at multitasking. We think we are. I find that women more often than men have the ability to multitask and get two things done at once without losing track. Men, and many psychological studies have been done this way, men who think they can multitask don't do very well in either of the tasks they're trying to do. But there is one man who's very good at multitasking. He's really good at it. Who is that?
Krishna.
Krishna, of course. Krishna is very, very expert at multitasking. And in fact, he's the supreme personality of multitasking, you might say. And so here we're going to watch the supreme personality multitask. And then that's the first point that's going to come up in this chapter. And the second point that's going to come up is something very important about sadhu sangha. So we'll go on. Sri Sukha Uvacha Kirtva Daicha Vadyam Krishna Saramo Yudabir Vrita Bhuvo Vatarayad Baram Jivastam Janaya Kalim. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, Lord Sri Krishna, accompanied by Balaram and surrounded by the Yadu dynasty, executed the killing of many demons. Thus, further to remove the burden of the earth, the Lord arranged for the great battle of Kurukshetra, which suddenly erupted in violence between the Kurus and the Pandavas. So this is setting the scene, and eventually there's a curse on the Yadu dynasty, and eventually this curse results in even Krishna leaving the planet. And when Krishna kills demons, it's not an ordinary activity because there's a liberation. Putana was liberated, Bakasura was liberated. They all get liberated. Some of these, so Krishna, being Krishna, it's all good. Now, in our own lives, we can easily have trouble understanding that. How many of you have had a situation in which it's very, very difficult? And you're wondering, where is God? Why is this happening to me? I'm actually a decent person. You know, I helped an old lady across the street. It wasn't until later I found out she really didn't want to cross the street. And I'm, you know, I'm a good person. Why is there so many difficulties? Queen Kunti, of course, gave the answer. She said, lay it on. It makes me think of Krishna more. But this is kind of setting the scene. So it's a long purport. I won't read the whole purport, but I'll read parts of it. So the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, this begins the first commentary by Prabhupada's disciples after Prabhupada's departure. The 11th canto of the Bhagavatam begins with a reference to the pastimes executed by Lord Sri Krishna in the 10th canto. The beginning of the 10th canto describes that when the earth was overburdened by demoniac rulers, the personified earth, Bhumi, approached Lord Brahma with tears in her eyes, begging for relief, and Brahma immediately went with the demigods to approach the Supreme Lord in this form of Kshirodakshai Vishnu. As the demigods waited respectfully on the shore of the milk ocean, the Supreme Lord announced through Brahma that he soon would incarnate on earth, and the demigods should also descend to assist in his pastimes. Thus, from the very beginning of Lord Krishna's appearance, it was understood he would descend to earth to remove the demons. Now, to give a context here, the demigods and the demons had a big battle. Won't go into all the details. It's an earlier canto, but it's a very famous story. And they were churning, uh, using, they were churning the ocean and trying to get the nectar and trying to steal the nectar. A big battle between the demons and the devotees. Can anybody think of a world famous temple that depicts that battle? World famous, one of the largest Vishnu temples in the world, and it depicts the battle between the demons and the devotees. And there were several incarnations happened during this time. Somebody share with me some of the incarnations that occurred during this. Somebody can unmute and help me out here. Anybody know?
Um, well, uh, 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 is this when they are pulling it out? At one point, the tortoise incarnation comes because it's
Yes,
bouncing and back, and
yes.
Lord Varaha was the one that picked the earth up out of the ocean.
We had that, and then here the demons and the tortoise incarnation wanted his back scratched, so he became the pivoting rod where they were churning the ocean to get the nectar, and then they were stealing it, and Mohini Murti came, and all kinds of several incarnations were involved. And there's the largest temple, one of the largest temple complexes in the ancient world describes it, and it is in Cambodia. Can somebody tell me the name of it?
Angkor Wat.
Angkor Wat. It's one of the largest temple complexes in the world. It's modeled after a South Indian temple, much larger. And when the winter comes and the river dries up, in the base of the river becomes visible Mahavishnu lying on the causal ocean, a statue. And then once a year on the uh, at the winter equinox, light, there are many stories in Mahabharata here. Light shines through this window and illuminates a bas relief of Bhishma lying on the bed of arrows. Just once a year, on that one day, the light goes through the window, illuminating this bas relief. It's an amazing temple complex. And later this month, later month of October, the world expert on Angkor Wat, a Sri Vaishnav professor at the university here, will give a lecture at the Bhaktivedanta Institute on the glories of Angkor Wat. She's the world expert. So any of you who are in the Gainesville area, I believe it's October 23rd, but date to be confirmed, you are welcome to come to the BI for an amazing lecture on it. We'll put out our newsletter with this information in it. So um, the um, so after the demigods and the demons had their battle, the demons regrouped. And there was a movie in the 50s that some of you may have seen called The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Anybody here seen that movie from the 50s? Yes, Henry saw it. In which these I don't remember the details that well, but some kind of interstellar creatures came to Earth and they would inhabit human bodies with the idea of taking over the Earth. It's a common science fiction theme, but that actually comes from the Mahabharata, because that's actually what's described in the Mahabharata of what happened. These demons would be born on Earth. Some of them would become kings. Some of them were born in pious families. Some of them were born as animals in impious families, and they would, or I mean, they're born as animals and they would attack Brahmins. So they started appearing on earth because they'd lost the battle. The demons lost the battles with the demigods in this Mahabharata story, and which is in the Bhagavatam too. And so they regrouped and came on earth. And so the earth was getting overwhelmed with demons, like invasions of the body snatchers. So Krishna says, okay, I'm going to appear on earth to deal with this. This is the background of the Mahabharata. And then when it came time for these pastimes to end, Krishna had to extract both the demons, which he had done a pretty good job of taking care of them. Mostly Krishna killed a few, mostly as through his agents. Krishna's not so much in the mood of killing a lot of people, but he had to kill a few here and there who attacked in Vrindavan. And through his agents, the demons were killed. And then it was time for even the demigods to leave. So Krishna arranged that they have a fratricidal battle among themselves. They kind of drank too much at some event. And they also left to rejoin Krishna in his pastimes, be it Vaikuntha or elsewhere, wherever that may be. So that's the context of what's going on here. So, to continue a little purport, as Prabhupada says in the Gita, those who agree to obey the instructions of revealed scriptures are known as demigods, or those who defy it are known as demons. So, I'm going to jump ahead a little. So Krishna states in the Gita, when there's a predominance of chaotic, irreligious societies on earth, he personally descends to rectify the imbalance. So thus from the beginning, Krishna systematically killed powerful asuras, even as a baby, who were intolerable burden on earth. And these are the asuras left over from the prior battle with the demigods. When they lost, they incarnated on earth, regrouped, and we're going to do another attack. Lord Sri Krishna was assisted by his brother Balaram, who's also a supreme person. Although God is one, he can expand into many forms. So to jump ahead, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has revealed that although many demigods had taken birth in Yadu dynasty, some members of the Yadu dynasty were actually inimical towards Krishna. So some demons were born in the Yadu dynasty. They considered themselves to be on the same level of Krishna, having taken birth in the family of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They had inconceivable strength, and thus they understood Krishna's supreme position. Having forgotten that Krishna's supreme personality of Godhead, they would constitute a great burden, and it was consequently necessary for Krishna to remove them from earth. There is a popular saying, very important saying, familiarity breeds contempt. So, to destroy the contemptuous members of his own dynasty, the Lord caused a quarrel among them. For this purpose, he arranged for Narada and other sages to display anger against the Karshanas, members of his family. And so, Krishna, this is beginning this departure where Krishna is removing the Yadus from the earth. They've already killed many demons and various battles, including, of course, the Battle of Kurukshetra. Now it's time for him to depart. So he plans kind of a fratricidal war. And this gets very relevant for the current state of the world and very relevant for all of us personally. Prabhupada made this statement: there's nothing that can stop the Krishna conscious movement except our own internal fighting. Nothing. And the biggest danger we have is not getting along with each other. And the Yadus, when they didn't get along with each other, though it was a plan of Krishna and it had a purpose behind it, it was also to teach us the lesson of do not engage in fratricidal war. If we do, we destroy our own devotional creepers. I see this all the time. I've been associated with devotees for over a half a century. And I've seen the craziest things happen. In the early 73, 74, Krishna gave me a vaccine. Now, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, so I like getting these vaccines. And this was a special vaccine. And it was a vaccine that was big mercy for me. I was at the Brooklyn Temple in New York. And Prabhupada had written me, there's one devotee, He was GBC, temple president, BBT trustee, sannyas. And Prabhupada said, any questions, ask him. And then he got married, even though he was a sannyas. And Prabhupada actually performed the wedding. Okay, you want to get married, that's okay too. And his wife was actually one of these real honest to goodness demons. She was cruel and mean, and she tortured all the women in the temple. And he was temple president, GBC, everything. He's actually come back to the movement in recent days. I won't even mention names, no need to, but very, very nice, intelligent person, got a little bewildered. Now we're going to get to the inoculation in a moment because it's very important in relation to what we're discussing here. And she was just a terror. She claimed to be an heir to the Toyota company, and she kind of bewildered this poor devotee into marrying her, and she wasn't anything she said she was. And she was mean to everybody. And then she stepped over the line. She offered to the very Radha Govinda deities who are in Brooklyn now, she offered them unedible foodstuffs, things that devotees would never eat, never eat. And she put it on the altar. Non-vegetarian food. Can you imagine such a thing? Then 3 devotees, and I was wondering, because I was just a bhakta, I was in graduate school, which was a little weird in those days, but I was. And devotees once a week were coming to my apartment, blooping. Blooping in those days did not mean leaving the movement. Hardly anyone could think of leaving Prabhupada, but it meant leaving your temple. You were like baseball players, for those who know baseball, before free agency. You were with a team, and if you were the New York team, you could not join the Philadelphia team without permission. Now baseball has free agency, you can move around. So those who know baseball will understand what I'm saying. Those who don't know baseball, you're even luckier. So the devotees would come once a week, my apartment in Jersey. Can I stay a few days till I find another temple? It was a crazy scene. Then one day, 3 devotees, Atreya Rishi, Gopal Krishna, and temple president's name slips my mind for the moment, blocked the door and said to this devotee couple, he was GBC and everything, you cannot come into the temple. You cannot enter the temple. You violated our sacred principles. Now, why was this an inoculation? Because I watched how Prabhupada dealt with it. And the craziest thing I've seen ever in the movement, I saw how Prabhupada dealt with it. Therefore, whatever insanity came for the next 50 years never destroyed my faith. It just bothered me. And there's insanity all the time. For example, one of the projects of the Bhaktivedanta Institute is one of the projects is, and we're going to release a report very soon, there's this crazy concept that some of Prabhupada's dearest, closest disciples wanted to poison him at the end. Some of you, the newsletters everywhere, I'm sure you've all seen this, or many have seen it. I was there with Prabhupada at the end. I know all the people. It's just crazy. So we've hired the best toxicologists in America, who Monday will give me a report that will debunk that whole nonsense. And it's nonsense. But all these nonsense goes on. But because I got my inoculation watching Prabhupada deal with it. And how did Prabhupada deal with it? Here's how he dealt with it. Those devotees who stood up and blocked the way and said, this exceeds any sense of decorum and Vaishnava etiquette. Those devotees, Prabhupada elevated 2 of them, including Gopal Krishna Maharaj, he was Grahastha then, to be GBC. made them GBC immediately because he said they have character. Those leaders who let all of these things go on, Prabhupada chastised them. Why didn't you say something to me? Those ordinary devotees who stuck with their service in spite of discrepancies, but did their service anyway. Prabhupada praised them. Ooh, you stuck with your service. I'm glad. And those devotees who couldn't stick and moved on, that was okay. So I watched how Prabhupada dealt with it in a cool-headed way, exactly how he did it. And I realized in Kali Yuga, as the 12th canto will predict, it's going to be a lot of weird stuff going on. And after that, nothing weird that happened could hurt my faith. It would just bother me. So what's going on here is something like that. There's
Hello.
weird stuff going on.
I do an hour, please.
What's that? Oh, somebody needs to be muted, maybe.
Sorry, it was me, my mistake. Apologies
Okay.
for.
No problem. No problem. So what's going on here? There's weird stuff going on. And then Krishna is actually dealing with it. Okay, we got to get the demons gone. The devotees, time for them to leave. So Krishna arranged this odd pastime. So Krishna, the consummate multitasker, is making everything happen and really restoring, as he says in the Gita, whenever and where declining religion I come. He's restoring religion and restoring, as Krishna says at the end of the Gita, or as Sanjay says, whenever, wherever there's a decline of religion, Krishna comes. And so Krishna is actually restoring religious principles. So we may ask the question, look at what it's like now in 2025. Where is Krishna? Actually, my morning prayers are often include, when I wake up, first thing I do in the morning is I have a picture of Prabhupada on my mantelpiece. And that picture was on the Vyasasan when I got initiated. Prabhupada was in the building, but was ill that day. His illness had begun. And so his illness began a few years before he left us, actually quite a few years. And so somehow I have that picture in my house. So I always, first thing I do is offer respects and prayers. Maybe today, Krishna is a day I grow a brain so I can do my service. There's a few prayers I want to say. And one of them, I'm concerned with, Krishna, where are you? The world is becoming such an irreligious place. Things are so difficult. Even among our own movement, we'll fight with each other. It's such a crazy time. Where are you? Of course, the answer is given. Krishna is here. But how has Krishna manifested? Krishna has manifested by giving us the easiest yoga process that exists. That's the holy name. Now, right now, this is the most sacred of Jewish holidays between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Most of you are aware of this. I come from a Jewish family. I'm keenly aware of it. And when though I had fully taken up Krishna consciousness, when I'd visit my late father this time of year, I would go to the synagogue with him. And most of the ritualistic matters that went on, other than some beautiful songs, but most of the religious matters were not of great interest to me. So what would I do when I'm sitting there for hours? I'd open the prayer book and I would turn to the parts of the liturgy that are pure bhakti. For example, a famous verse from the Old Testament, love the Lord with all thy heart, with all thy might. There's many bhakti verses. So I would study two things. One, the bhakti verses, of which there are many. Of course, there are many verses that aren't quite bhakti. I'm in anger, some of it, when you read the Old Testament, you think God has a serious anger management problem. And I would I will smite you, I will smote you, I will do I want you to invade told Moses, go send the army to the Holy Land and kill all the women and children in the village. I could never understand these things. But skip that part. Go to the Bhakti verses. They're beautiful. And there's a second part of the liturgy that really struck me deeply. And that is the connection with the holy name. Because in Judaism, one of the most important prayers begins with holy, holy is the name of God. And it just glorifies up and down the name of God. It is Baruch Shem Kavod is a Hebrew for those who are aware of it. Blessed is the name of God. And it just talks about the name of God, but doesn't say what God's name is, or doesn't say who God is. One child was asked by his priest, do you know the name of God? He said, yes, I do know the name of God. It's Howard. Oh, why did you say the name of God is Howard? Of course, we always pray, Howard be the name of God. It's actually Hallow, but he thought it was Howard. So anyway, the idea of the name of God is embedded all through the liturgy and the Old Testament, and of course the New Testament too. So Krishna has come in a different way. I wouldn't mind if Krishna came with his army and Arjuna and kind of knocked off some of these demoniac leaders that seem to be occupying large swaths of the world. But Krishna comes in a different way. He comes in the holy name. So no matter what anxiety we have, we actually have Krishna dancing on our tongue with us. That is an amazing phenomena. It's just wonderful. So even in the darkest times, we can know that actually Krishna is with us if we just do one thing. Remember. All we have to do is remember. And what do we do to remember? We hear Sarvanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, hearing, chanting turns into remembrance. And then we remember that Krishna is actually here. So I've been told to stop within 10 minutes, see if there are any questions, reflections. I'm just trying to give an introduction to this chapter. My purpose today was kind of say, where are we headed to in this, the curse upon the Yadu dynasty chapter, and to introduce that this is the beginning of the Bhagavatam done after Prabhupada left us. So with that, I have major point to say, and this is going to become very clear in the chapter. It's going to emphasize the importance of good association. But that would be a whole class in itself. So let me stop here as I've been asked to see if there are any questions, comments, or reflections.
Brahmatirtha Prabhu, wonderful class as always. Thank you. Dear devotees, it's your turn. Please, if you have a reflection, please go ahead, unmute yourself, or ask a question.
Well, there's one question in the chat, and the question is this: is it okay to think every single being, life or energy, has two sides, like good or bad, hot, cold, evil? Well, I can say that's true for me. I mean, sometimes I feel on one shoulder there's an angel, another shoulder there's a devil. The angel is saying chant, and the devil is saying look at your social media. I mean, that happens to me all the time. So all of us, almost all of us, I mean, Prabhupada, few are above these things, but for all practical purposes, all of us have kind of a good side, evil side. So our job is to cultivate the good side, but we can't do that unless we're aware of the evil side. I'll tell a quick story. One time I was in New York and I was standing outside the old Brooklyn Temple on Henry Street. And I was still, bhakta at the best at that time. And Prabhupada was walking down the steps. And I said, well, I should offer obeisances to Prabhupada. I said, it's a dirty New York street. I said, no, I should offer obeisances. So on one side, the angel on my shoulder saying, offer obeisances. And the other side, the devil is saying, it's a dirty New York street. So I said, I should offer obeisances. Nah, it's a dirty street. I went back and forth, back and forth. Finally, it was the last minute. After that, there would be no chance to offer obeisances. So finally, the devil won. And I said, no, I'm not going to offer obeisances. And at that moment, I stepped in a big pile of dog doo. So I learned my lesson. I should have offered obeisances. Of course, then my head might have been the dog. Anyway, I should have offered obeisances. So later on, Prabhupada was again leaving the temple, and I happened to be his driver. I was driving him to Kennedy Airport, and I was sitting in the car. And Prabhupada had this ability to walk much faster than any of us imagined. He was very on morning walks. Sometimes we'd pray that his socks would fall, so he'd stop for a second so we could catch up. I mean, he was a very fast walker. And Prabhupada was walking to the car, and the car was surrounded by devotees. So I couldn't step out of the car to offer obeisances. I think I remember the dog do incident. I said, I got to offer obeisances. Prabhupada's coming. And I didn't know what to do. Finally, I'm trying to offer obeisances on the seat. And Prabhupada walked so fast, the door was open. He was getting in the car. So I'm trying to offer obeisances under the steering wheel, and I can't quite fit. And it was just so awkward. And then Prabhupada so affectionately goes and pats me on the head. He goes, that's okay. So that was my little lesson there. I just share with you that little story. So we will go and so that's the good and evil side. Now, Min has a question. Please, what is your question, dear Min? And I will see you in a few weeks in New York, I hope.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm sorry I couldn't have my camera on before.
That's okay.
Thank you so much for the class.
Oh, I see you're in your library just thinking.
Actually, Jack wanted to hear you, and he was a little bit indecent, so we just had the camera off.
Appreciate.
So I wanted to ask, I really appreciated you sharing that story of you going with your father to the synagogue. And my question is, I've come across in our community when there's a topic of other faiths, that not everyone and not all the time, but at times I hear this sense of we're better than them, that our faith is better than theirs. And part of me, of course, feels that way, and that's why I'm on this path. But I also see the danger of that sort of sentiment. If it sort of expands that way, then it could be problematic for in a bigger picture, right? We had religious wars and such. So I'm just wondering, what is the best way for bhakti yogis, Krishna consciousness devotees, to look at other faiths?
Well, that's a very important question. And Prabhupada dealt with this. First, Prabhupada was very respectful of other faiths. And when he'd meet with priests, sometimes he would praise them. And sometimes he would challenge them, especially one time he met with one cardinal in France. And he challenged the cardinal because Prabhupada, the face is a mirror of the mind. So he can know where they're at. And he challenged them very heavy on meat eating and other principles. And the cardinal wouldn't surrender a bit. A few weeks later, the cardinal was found dead in the bed of a prostitute. So Prabhupada could understand where he was at. So, and somebody asked, so Davey asked a very similar question in the chat. So, I mean, do we accept Jesus and Mohammed? Prabhupada, religious history is tough. For example, if we study Christianity, there's no time to go into this in detail, we'll find it may be better to call Christianity Paulism, because Paul, who formerly was Saul, never met Christ, but many of Christian theology comes from him. And there's a real question if that's really what Christ taught. So Christianity has become kind of blurred to some degree. At the same time, Prabhupada accepted Jesus as a Shakti Vesh avatar, empowered incarnation. So that's how I see Jesus, very much that way. Sometimes we have to filter out some of the silliness that comes later. For example, in John, which is not part of the Synoptic Gospels, it was written much later, and it's very different. John, the dates and the events are very different than the three Synoptic Gospels. And in John, it's the only place you get, Jesus is the only way. You get the fanaticism comes out later. So we shouldn't think that we're the only way. When I meet Buddhists and Christians and others, they're very, very pious people, I recognize their spirituality. I appreciate it, as did Prabhupada. But when somebody was a bluffer, Prabhupada would call their bluff. One time, Rabindra he was studying at Temple University, getting his PhD, and brought his professor and other graduate students to see Prabhupada. So Prabhupada asked the professor, so you teach Hinduism, so what is Hinduism? And the professor says, I don't know. And Prabhupada says, therefore you are a cheater. You are teaching something you don't know. And Prabhupada challenged him, and Rabindra was so terribly embarrassed. I brought my professor and graduate students, and Prabhupada smashed them. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Turns out everyone so appreciated Prabhupada's candor and honesty. And I think some of the other students even became devotees because they're so impressed that Prabhupada called it. So Prabhupada would call a cheater and a saint, and he called Jesus a saint. And he also, again, we have to say, what's the real history of Muhammad versus what's presented nowadays? There's some questions on that. But the teachings of love of God that are found in the Quran are actually, Prabhupada appreciated it, as do I. So we're not like some Christians who misinterpret John and say, we're the only way. But it's the only way for me. It works great for me. And I'd like to share it with others, but that doesn't mean I degrade what others do. So that's my own understanding of this. I hope that helps, Min. We can discuss more when I meet you and Jack for dinner, hopefully in a few weeks. And finally, last but not least for questions is dear Bhima.
Haribo Prabhu. I love the overviews you give and bringing it even into contemporary understanding. I think the important part that I took, if I were to put it all on a bumper sticker of what you said, that's most important in answer to Min's question, is that you seek the bhakti wherever it is. I, as a person who studied comparative religion and then studied Christian mysticism, was actually a class, a beautiful, wonderful book by Marcia Iliad, very thick about all the mystic devotions of Saint Teresa of Avila, Saint John of the Cross, Meister Eckhart, and then also all the Eastern, and then the Middle Eastern, whether it be Sufism, Rumi, Kabir, etc. Among mystics, it was said, there is no disagreement. So we, as Christ said, there are those who understand the letter of the law. That would be the religion, the process by which one links up, whether it be through bhakti yoga by chanting, or whether it be through strict service, or Sufi, whether it be through kirtan or the dervishes, which is quite frankly kirtan. So
Exactly.
we seek that bhakti. We seek like a bee. We have the devotees have T-shirts. Seek the nectar, and it shows a bee going around in circles towards a flower. So Min, whoever's even an atheist, you just seek wherever that, because everybody has that little ember. There's always, if you look at a fire and it's all ash, like let's say a religion that's covered with a lot of ritual or a lot of dogma, even in a born again Christian. Just talk about Christ and how wonderful Christ was. And please tell me about Christ. And, does Christ say that God is beautiful? And well, you don't try to beat them, you try to encourage them. You take that little ember and you flame it because love will burn off. I've met many Christians who are wide open in their heartfelt. We'll talk later. Hare Krishna.
Thank you all very much. Have a blessed day and remember the holy name. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Lover's feet, Virgin Master, the way about the lover's feet, great honor. By his grace, one can trust the ocean of suffering and pain and mercy of Krishna. My only wish is that all my consciousness purified in the words emanating from his lover's mouth. Attachment to the lover's feet is perfection. The lotus eyes. My life fills my house transcend. He is my Lord, birth to earth. And ecstatic flame emanates from the room. Vague scriptures, simplest character. Our spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor, and Lord Master. Oh, Master, be merciful on us. Give us the shade of lotus feet. Famous spread all over the people. Take shelter. Take Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Afterglow. Bhima Prabhu, are you done glorifying Krishna?
Well, I'd just like to say that it's very important that we remember the most important verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Abandon all varieties of religion and simply surrender unto me. I know this is rather heretical, but we have to understand that when Prabhupada says chant 24/7, it doesn't necessarily mean your hands on your beads and your mouth and your tongue wagging. It means that you're aware that Krishna and Radharani are present everywhere, and especially in the hearts of those people from other religions who are trying their best to turn around and find something higher. And that we should always just seek whatever ember that is glowing in them and encourage them to speak about it, rather than dissecting the history of their religion and how this is, we took down this guy and we took down that guy. It's, we're not dealing with cardinals. We're not Prabhupada. We are dealing with people who are just like us, struggling to make sense of it all and struggling to find that great love that, we have a yearning for and always languish for in this world. So we seek to encourage it in others, and therefore I'm of the understanding that it will be enlivened in ourselves. The reason why we preach is because we become intimately responsible for what we say. If we're telling a devotee the holy name's it, then we better start making the holy name it in our life. So, it's very important to always encourage others, whatever that spark is, no matter how far away they are. So I'd just like to say that in regards to all this talk about different religions and how should we see them, we should see not the religion, we should see the person. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. I like how Adipurusha Prabhu often says that God is working in everyone's life. It's not that God is only working in this denomination, in this church, and He's working in everyone's heart, in everyone's life. And if anything, Bhakti makes other traditions clearer to us. When we practice Bhakti more genuinely, then we see, oh, that's what they're talking about. I see. It's not that we look down or, oh, they don't know what they're doing. We just see things clearly with Bhakti. Jamuna Jaya, please.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, just to that point, I quickly reached to my copy of Journey Within because Radhanath Maharaj, in his definition, I can't even tell the page number, page 84 of the text, he nailed the definition of bhakti. And the last thing he writes is that bhakti is also the name of the path of yoga dedicated to awakening this love within us. It is not a practice exclusive to any particular religion or creed. Is the essence of all
You gotta get in the
religions
bath
and
because
creeds
Grammy's gonna be here
because it's the
soon.
natural
Don't put that on
condition
the
of the
floor.
soul.
So I
And I
can't.
love that he says that it's not exclusive to any particular religion or creed because it's the essence of all religions and creeds because it's the natural condition of the soul. And my personal experience was like when my father was on hospice and was getting ready to leave his body, I was on one side of him with my japa beads. My mother was on the other side of him with his rosary beads, with her rosary beads. We were doing the same thing. We were both calling out the names of God. And so whenever I read that, I always think about that moment. So bhakti is really, and I love this discussion of finding it because it really is, it is the heart of everything. So just wanted to share that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Jamuna Jaya. Is it true that Madan Gopal Prabhu is here?
Hey Krishna Prabhu,
There he is.
Mathuranath
Hey,
Prabhu's hand is
Madan
up.
Gopal Prabhu, Hare Krishna, so good
Hare
to see
Bol,
you.
obeisances. Mathuranath Prabhu's hand is up before mine though. Go ahead, Mathuranath.
Haribo. Yeah, beautiful discussion. I was thinking how a lot of time we're considering, okay, if I'm picking up my devotion, seems like I've felt this, but maybe we were a Christian in our last life and Jesus has brought us to Krishna. Maybe that's where our devotion's coming from. So if we're thinking we're better than Christians. Maybe I was a Christian my last life, or maybe 2 lives ago, or whatever it may be. And something else ties into that is, so when there's this competitive spirit, we're better than them. This is Rajagun. This is Rajagun. One symptom of it is competitiveness. We're better. we're trying to top dog everyone else. So we're committed to being in sattva, which means really trying to see how we can have connection, how we can encourage others, how we can really support and love. So it's just seeing that as Vaishnavas, our one of our real aspirations is to function in sattva and out of this raja. And if we're thinking I'm better and I'm going to debate them, and debating is nothing wrong with that, but if there's debating in Rajagund and there's debating in sattva, and there's that's come up as a topic. Charlie Kirk, his assassination, I could see he was very devotional to Christ, but I saw he was very competitive in his debating. He didn't really understand. I don't the sattva, and sometimes he was there. There was, I think he would go back and forth, but I don't think he understood the distinction. There was a lot of graciousness in him and sweetness, but there is also, I see a lot of Rajagun. Anyways, just some thoughts on that.
Thank you, Mutaranath Prabhu. Yeah, we don't judge. Madan Gopal Prabhu, followed by Adi Purusha Prabhu. We have a lot of nectar in the afterglow.
Okay, yes, I just wanted to kind of echo Brahmatirtha Prabhu's very beautiful statements about how Prabhupada's vision was vast and inclusive. He saw genuine spirituality not as a matter of sect or label, but of awakening one's love of God, of bhakti. He would say, we're not teaching this Hindu religion or we're teaching, we're not, whether you're a Christian, Muslim, or Jew, love of God is the goal. Right? So his respect for other faiths was profound because he recognized that all bona fide religions aim toward the same essence, devotion and surrender to the Supreme Lord. He would say, if you're a good Christian, you're my brother. Love God sincerely, that's all. So this spirit of honoring others, sincere worship reflects his, of course, his universal principle that he taught of bhakti. At the same time, he warned against niyamagraha. You see, the principle of niyamagraha applies no matter what tradition you come from, you see, which is mechanically following or rigidly clinging to the external rules of religiosity while missing the inner purpose. And that's what Brahmatirtha Prabhu was saying. Like, he would see some of his rituals in his, in the Judeo background, or even Christian, we can see, right? So the danger is not, this danger of niyamagraha is not limited to one tradition. In every religion, we can see both niyamagraha and niyam agraha, meaning, fanatic adherence without the spirit or just complete negligence of the essential principles. In Christianity, Jesus Christ, right, he chastised the Pharisees for honoring the letter of the law but ignoring the spirit of the law. In Islam, right, I think Abhinav Prabhu was talking about the dervishes, like the mystics, like Rumi, they emphasize love over the rituals. In Hinduism even, or even in our tradition, Vedic background, right, Krishna tells Arjuna that Vedic rituals are secondary to the direct path. He says, right, give up these Vedic rituals. Yeah, because the main thing is they can distract you from your goal of love. So Prabhupada's example teaches us the essence of all true religion is the transformation of heart. So in our spiritual practice, are we transforming our heart? That's what matters. It's not whether our particular label is better than another particular group's label or whatever, right? Our group is better than your group, like what Mathuranath Prabhu was saying. It's not just about lower mode. It's about now becoming egotistical about it and missing the essence of it, which is love. And transformation of our heart. Are we developing humility, compassion, and love for God and all beings? Are we really loving? The rules and rituals are meant to serve that goal. And so when they're followed in that spirit, they elevate us. But when they're followed without that spirit, they become empty. They become empty form. So I think if we can focus on, say, nectar of instruction, the principles laid in there, and niyamagraha, all these 6 things that destroy Krishna consciousness, all those 6 things, they It doesn't matter what tradition you're trying to follow, they apply there too. Atyahar, prayasasya, prajalpo, niyamagraha, it's not just for Krishna consciousness. If you want to be a great Christian, you got to follow Rupa Goswami too. You see, it doesn't matter what you want to, as long as those principles are universal, non-sectarian, spiritual principle of developing love. 6 exchanges of love between devotees. You can use them in Christian circles too. In fact, you can do a whole Nectar of Instruction series and present it at a mega church, and people would appreciate it. That's the wonderful thing about what our acharyas taught us. Just wanted to share that.
Prabhu, I have a question regarding that developing love of God. Is that okay?
Of course, sure.
So a lot of time in my own life, and I can only imagine this is happening for a lot of others, this is about developing a personal connection, a personal relationship. We have to, that's how we develop love between two people. And a lot of time we're not taught how to actually recognize ourselves and really love ourselves, because we've kind of, a lot of us have learned to abandon ourselves in the midst of all the psychological, emotional things that, and abuse that happens in this world, and neglect. It's not necessarily abuse, but also neglect. So if we haven't learned to really acknowledge ourself, love ourself, acknowledge even ourself as a person that needs love and affection, are we able to love Krishna if that is not happening?
Yeah, this is a great point. It's a beautiful and deep question. In Krishna consciousness, this notion of self-love is not the egocentric self-adoration that we celebrate in modern culture, but rather it's a sacred honoring of the soul's true identity. We should honor. It's the gentle remembrance that I am not this body, I'm eternal servant of Krishna. In there's some nice, I think in South India, this temple with the pujaris, they put on these big, like bracelets on their upper arms and lower arms made of pure gold, and they're very solid, like they adorn themselves when they go on the altar. It's not about, and I was like, this is odd. Why are you decorating yourself with so much gold when you go on the altar? It's not like, no, but it's not about that. I am now serving the supreme Lord of the universe. I better look like the part, It's not about me. This is the uniform when I wear this solid gold, this glorifies the Lord, because I'm on the altar offering this arati. When people even glimpse at me, I should look like, I belong here. It's not about me. It's a very beautiful way of looking at it, that my sense of self-worth, self-care is 100% through the lens of being a devotee of the Lord. You see? So when gopis decorate themselves, it's to please Krishna. It's not because, the other girls of the city will be jealous of them, or that, that they'll be like, look in the mirror, how beautiful I am, look at me. No, it's not about me. It pleases Krishna. So for devotees, genuine self-love means treating oneself as a soul on Krishna's journey, not as a machine of endless doing or achieving, right? And Prabhupada emphasized we should be kind to ourselves. Yes, rising early, chanting attentively, eating prasadam, avoiding offenses. It's not out of guilt or self-punishment, but out of care for the soul's progress. These are not incredibly harsh things to do. Chanting, eating prasadam, rising on a decent time, doing healthy things. These are not a kind of torture. It's really healthy. So in that sense, self-love becomes self-care, So a few things, like we want to recognize the sacredness of our soul. You're part and parcel of Krishna. You're not ordinary. That's what true self-love means. And then we act on that platform. And then we forgive oneself. That's another aspect of self-love. That yes, we have shortcomings. Sometimes we stumble and fall. But the repentance should lead to more surrender, not self-hate and paralysis, right? So that's another part of self-love too. And then another part of self-love is you serve yourself by serving others. When we serve somebody else, like Adi Purush Prabhu is selflessly going out to serve others. But it nourishes, so much the soul when we nourish others spiritually. And we respect our own body. The body is not ours. It's Krishna's property. So when you respect it, that is also kind of self-love. Maintain it, take rest, maintain health, make sure you get enough exercise. Prabhupada went out and got exercise. We need to get exercise too. It's not self-indulgence, it's self-care. And it's self-compassion when we're struggling. So there's all the different components of self-care that Krishna then he appreciates, because we are good caretakers of his property, which is our soul and our bodies. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Adipusha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, you can hear us okay? Yes?
Yes.
Amazing discussion. Everyone's contributing fantastic to the subject matter. Prabhupada does a lot of... There's one thing Prabhupada says is foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of small minds. Sometimes the truth is a little bit paradoxical. Yet, Yudhisthira was saying, there's no one more fallen than me, right? You know that? His teacher told him, go out and find someone better than you, or someone less than you. And he said, I couldn't find anybody lesser than me. So in one sense, in the humble position, we're considering everybody is actually closer to Krishna than me. That's how an advanced soul thinks. There's that parable in the Bible about there was a man outside the temple just looking in the door, and up front there was somebody going, I go to the morning program every day and I follow all the rules and I fast twice a week and I give donations and look at them. Sorry, I'm glad I'm not like that sinful person outside by the door. And the guy out by the door was thinking, I wish I was a good devotee like that guy up in the front row. And it says that the Lord was more pleased with him. So in one sense, we do think that everyone is better and I'm a fallen soul. But on the other thing, one of the analogies devotees give is when you go to get a Father's Day present, you go to the card shop and the card says, World's Greatest Father. And so you buy that card, but as you pick that card up, behind it, there's another card that says, World's Greatest Father. Everyone should think that my spiritual master is the best of the best, and there's no one like him, So in one sense, the devotee's sentiment is that our tradition is the best, but in another sense, we are respectful because religion means to love God, not just a bunch of externals. So then there's this one quick story. I'm sorry this is so late. Rabbi Gelberman used to give class here in the Bhakti Center. He had an interfaith seminary. When a Catholic girl wants to get married to a Jewish boy, they won't let the marriage go on in the church. So Rabbi Gelberman was ordaining interfaith ministers. So they would, go to his thing and get a certificate, and they could do marriages, and they could do funerals and weddings and baptisms and things like that, even if there were people from different faiths getting married. So Rabbi Gilman tells us one story that there was an old rabbi. You know that story in Nanda Vihar? The old rabbi left this world and he went to the kingdom of God, and when he got to the gate, the Lord greeted him. And the Lord said, Rabbi, you made it. You're here. You did it. Your life is perfect. This is one. Rabbi, you don't look happy. So the rabbi says, yes, Lord, I'm happy. But you're right. There is a problem. The Lord said, what could be the problem? The rabbi says, well, I have a son. And all my life I raised my son to be a good Jew. And right before I left this world, my son became a Christian. So the Lord said, Rabbi, I had a son who did the same thing. It's no big deal. No big deal. I had a son who did the same thing. Jesus became a Christian. He was a Jew. Anyway, the point is that there's truth available. Krishna's working in everybody's life, in everybody's religious tradition. And all of us have the capacity to, follow one of those traditions and reawaken our love for Krishna. Or miss the whole point. Anyway, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Sorry to talk so long.
If the Bhagavatam is a gift, Madan Gopal and Adi Purush are the ribbon in the bow that tops it all. Hare Krishna.
All glories to Prabhupada. Whatever you glorify me for, I tell you, I'm only repeating Guru.
Don't worry, I'll chastise you later.
My grandmother always used to say in her Gujarati accent, all of us are Jew Atmas, So I was raised to be a good Jew. Good Jew means a Gujarati person is also called good Jew.
Good.
Good Jew. Or a good Jew.
Nice. Thank you very much.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's good. Happy Saturday.
On this interfaith note, we'd like to...
Free Palestine.
Hare Krishna.
What did you say, Haripusha Prabhu? Shredder?
Rabbi Gilberman, how are you? He says, Hakol B'Sheder. It means everything is in divine order. In other words, how wonderful is Krishna? He's doing everything so wonderfully.
How wonderful is Krishna.
Baruch Hashem. Bless God.
L'chaim to that.
Thank you. Okay, Sundarananda Prabhu. Sundarananda Prabhu. Can you recite the Maha Mantra, please?
I had a feeling you would call me out, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Okay. Say on the good Jew note, that was a wonderful joke. So I'll try to be a good Jew too. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And maybe I'll ask Kamala Gopi to say one too. It's her birthday today. So let me see if she can say a
How wonderful. Wonderful family.
recite the Hare Krishna mantra.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Say the whole mantra.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Haribol.
Happy birthday, Kamala Gopi. May Krishna bless you with many, many years, lifetimes of devotional service with Sundarananda Prabhu. And
Thank you.
Great. I see Sundarananda Prabhu's hair is standing on end.
Yeah.
Starting to go up. Yeah.
It's for the special occasion.
Nice. Sweet. Happy birthday, Prabhus. Thank you very much for your association.